Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Emily Talks. And I am Emily Nicolakis, and I'm here with my co-host, Dave Lennis. Hello, Dave.
Hello there, Emily. To fix that intro. I don't know what the hell's going on, man. Everything's all weirded out over here. Yeah, we can't get on YouTube, so I apologize for the folks that we're going to tune in on the YouTube stream, but unfortunately, Blog Talk decided to take off that option for us. So we're going to be solely here on Blog Talk just for another hour or two, and then I'll reload it onto YouTube.
Okay. No problem. Dave, how was your week?
My week was hot. I think I shedded about 20 pounds, so I'm back to my beach body. Believe it or not.
Good. Congratulations.
I'm able to walk
I'll post
around without a
Dave's
shirt.
beach body on the website. In case you want to listen to old episodes. I mean, we're only on our 4th episode, but in case you want to listen to old episodes, you can do that at emilytalks.com. Today we are going to be joined by Suzi Dote and Andre Davis, who are death investigators in Pinal County, which is the county right next to Maricopa, where Phoenix is. I'm very excited about this because I had a conversation with Suzi yesterday, and her job is very interesting, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. And I know it's kind of a morbid pursuit. She's like, people don't usually want to talk about this, but I did. So here we are.
I don't know. I know I'm excited about this interview, to interview both of them. But I think my wife is more excited that we're interviewing them because my wife is all into that, And she was like, when I was doing my research and writing down certain questions that I want to ask, she's like literally was right behind me, like, ask that one. That's a question. Ask this question. Do this and that. I'm like, Jesus, do you want to do the interview?
Right. Bring her on. All right. We want to bring them on the show. I think they're waiting in our queue.
Yeah, let's bring on Suzi and Andre here on Emily Talks.
Hello.
Hi, Suzi. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. And Andre, is he with us?
I'm here. Good morning. Good morning, Dave and Emily.
Good morning, Andre. So, Dave, I don't know if I told you this, but I met Suzi. I used to do the boxing update on the Power MMA show that was on the radio here in Phoenix.
I remember that.
Suzi was a big fan. Suzi was a big fan of a couple of the UFC fighters that were on the show, or she trained with them and stuff. So I met her that way, and we've been friends for a very long time.
Wow.
Longer than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, because at some point in the past, I was stressed out about rape kits being untested, and I messaged her and I said, can somebody that doesn't know, hasn't been trained or hasn't gone to school, can they volunteer to do some part of the rape kit and, help get processes? And she's like, no, you have to actually be able to testify about them, and kind of set me straight on it. But that was like 6 years ago. We figured out yesterday. So, Andre, why don't you start? Tell us a little about yourself and the job, and how you ended up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to take it backwards here by complete accident, never really intended to go into the field. It just fell on me, and it clicked. So by training, I was a paramedic, and I worked both in San Diego and Las Vegas. To make a long story short, as a paramedic for about 6 years. I went to a mass fatality drill in Las Vegas area, and met a guy there who worked for the coroner's office. Kind of told me about what he does, and was interested. And within 2 weeks, I went down to the office, took a tour, and was offered a position. So I took it, and never looked back. It just the field kind of clicked for me, and humble brag, but I felt like I was good at it. So it was a great transition for me. So I've worked at 3 offices now. So I've worked at the Clark County Coroner's Office in Las Vegas, the Travis County Medical Examiner's Office in Austin, and obviously Pinal County here in Arizona. I mean, it's a great field. It just kind of opens your eyes, keeps you thinking. No 2 days are the same, so it's always interesting going into a different scene. It could be your third or fourth, hanging scene for the week, but every scene is different. Everything has its own different things to analyze and characteristics to look at there. So it's definitely intriguing by all means.
All right, Suzi, what about you? How did you end up here? What got you interested in the job? And I actually think that was one of the questions that came in from one of our online listeners.
Well, I went to school I didn't even know what I wanted to do for a while. And then I don't remember what classes I was taking at community college that kind of led me into an interest in forensics. And I just started taking a lot of criminal justice type classes, but I didn't know what part of the field I wanted to work in, because there's a lot of different aspects of the forensics field and the legal field and the medical field. And I was just thinking, I was watching TV one day, and this kind of ties into the story that you had for me yesterday. I was watching the news, and, there's a story of a jogger that finds a body in a canal. And I was like, how come I'm never finding bodies laying around anywhere? And I was like, maybe that's where my interest lies, is bodies. And so I started looking into the medical examiner field, and I worked at the Maricopa office previously. I started there as a volunteer. I just kept sending them letters saying, hey, do you take volunteers? I want to work there. I have interest in this. How do I get in the field? And they took me on as a volunteer, and 30 days later they hired me. So, and that was in the year 2000. So I've been pretty much doing it almost consistently ever since.
Wow.
Yeah, don't do the math. Don't do the math.
Have you stumbled on a body since then, Suzi?
No, I have not. But guess what? Emily
Okay.
has. Emily has.
I stumbled on a body. I was leaving my kids' school, which was interestingly, their school rented space from a big church. And I don't know if you guys saw, like here in Arizona, Trump did a rally here last Tuesday, and it was at a big mega church. That's the place where my kids went to school. Like, they rented space from that facility. And I was dropping them off one day, and I was trying to find a weird way out, like, so I didn't have to turn left getting out on Cave Creek, which is kind of a scary road. So I drive around to the kind of the back of the church, and there's a car with the door open there, and there's a guy laying in the gravel. And I thought, oh, somebody's sleeping something off. I'll go check on this guy. And my ex-husband said, why do you always have to get involved? Like, why don't you just drive on, but I can't. So I get out of my car, and this guy's eyes are open. He was definitely dead, unfortunately. So I called 911, and
did you whistle at him?
Police officer came out.
I want to know, how did you determine he was dead? Did you whistle at him, or you're like, hey, buddy, what are you doing?
Yeah, I was just like, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? And it was kind of while I was on the phone with 911 that I realized, like, he wasn't no longer with us. And he was, like, laying there,
wow.
and it was really sad. And I was, like, shook, right? Like, this was very kind of traumatic for me, to be honest. And the cop came out, and he's talking about American Idol. I'm like, how often are you doing stuff like this, that you're just having this convo about how you got emotional at American Idol? And then the investigators came out. Yeah, right? The investigators came out and said, oh, he died by suicide. He had a note, and his wife had died previously. So this is the point where I think Suzi and Andre would come in. So do you guys want to, kind of put yourself in that situation?
Walk us through what you guys would do.
Andre can do that. He's the boss.
So, I mean, for us, it really just kind of starts with that notification of death, right? So, I mean, you're pulling out in the road, you find this guy that's unresponsive, you call 911. The police show up, depending upon the circumstances, the detectives show up. They do their initial scene investigation, then they call our office. So basically, when we have a call to our office, we triage the call to kind of figure out what's going on. So not every death is our case. We don't accept every death that occurs in the county. But we triage the call, kind of get an idea as far as the circumstances. In this particular case, if we're using, your scenario, we would respond to this case. Pretty much the first thing we do when we get on scene is we'll talk to the investigators, talk to the detectives, determine what preliminary information they were able to obtain just based upon their investigation. And from there, our job starts. So essentially our job is to be the eyes and ears of the forensic pathologist, the person that ultimately does the autopsy. So it's not like the movies where, you've got the doctor going out to the scene. Suzi, I don't know if you can attest to this as well, but as long as I've been doing this, I've had a doc come to the scene with me twice, I believe. But most of the work is us as far as being the eyes, the ears, sometimes the nose and mouth of the doctors that actually do the autopsy. So we go out, and first thing we'll do is we'll take our overall photographs of the scene, photo document the scene. We examine the body looking for any evidence of any kind of external trauma, any evidence of, drug paraphernalia, whatever it may be that kind of give us a hint as far as, what the cause and manner of this individual may be. Once we kind of wrap up our investigation on scene, our particular office will bring the decedent back to our office. We'll basically do some follow-up, be able to order medical records, discuss with family, other supplementary source items, essentially, is what we'll interrogate. We put that all into a nice little report, and that's what the doctor has to kind of add some context to it once he goes into the autopsy. So when we have put to kind of justify our jobs here, it's one thing for us to put a body in front of our doctors that has, multiple bullet wounds. Our doctor could certainly tell you that he died of gunshot wounds, but the investigators are what put context into that. So was this a homicide? Was this a suicide? Was this an accident? That's essentially our role in this portion of the investigation.
And to clarify, Suzi, can you clarify what cases you get? I didn't do that at the beginning here. What cases come across your desk?
For our specific state, it's determined by state statute. Our jurisdiction is over any death that is not due to natural causes, but then also a few other things. Things like someone dies during surgery. We need to investigate that and make sure that there were no mistakes made. We would handle any that occur in prison or with anyone who's being taken into custody or being held by an officer. That's a public safety matter type of thing. So we even handle, all the natural prisoner deaths just to ensure that if the public ever questions the treatment of prisoners, we are an impartial third party that has looked into that on behalf of the public. And then work-related incidents, when somebody has a work-related injury or dies during the course of their job, even if it's natural causes, we want to make sure that something to do with their job didn't cause their death. And then we do handle some natural deaths. Those would be ones where people don't have a primary physician, people that don't like to go to the doctor and they've never been diagnosed with anything. We have a lot of winter visitors, so people that come from out of state and they don't have an Arizona physician. They might have a lot of medical problems being treated in Minnesota, but no doctor in Arizona to sign off on their death certificate. So we will investigate their deaths and take jurisdiction over that. So there's a few natural things, but all unnatural deaths are reported to our office and investigated by us. We don't, like he said, we don't always do an autopsy. We don't always even do a full body examination. It might just be a review of medical records, but we do take jurisdiction, and that makes us responsible for creating the death certificate.
Okay.
Wow, a lot. That is. I got a quick question. What is the method that you guys start with before you, right when you're about to do your investigation? Is there a certain method that you have to start with first, or is it just case by case?
In terms
of determining our caseload, whether or not we're accepting jurisdiction, you mean there?
No, I'm just in anything. When it comes to like a prisoner death or a suicide, is it case by case in how you approach it, or is there a method that you have to start with in order to get to where you're going in solving the case?
Yeah, no, I agree with Suzi. I think it's more so case by case. Each scene has its own different intricacies, if you will. So it just really depends upon what's being reported to us initially. The scenario where, Emily described, you've got the body on the side of the road. We're going to handle that a little bit differently than we would just say the individual that was in an MVA and transported to the hospital and died in the hospital. MVA being motor vehicle accident.
And also there's things that are similar between everything. So, every hanging death is going to have a different scenario. They're going to be hanging in a different way with different type of ligatures. Different people may have been involved or not involved. They may have already cut them down and done CPR on them. But in all hanging cases, we're going to want measurements. We're going to want descriptions of how people were found, whether their feet were touching the ground or not. Things like that are consistent for all cases. In all motor vehicle accidents, we always want to know the same sorts of things. Were they the driver, the passenger, restrained, unrestrained, ejected, still in the vehicle? And we ask everyone's medical history because someone's medical history could have caused them to have a car accident, and they might not die from car accident injuries like it appears. So there are some things that are similar among every case. We talk to every family. We ask everyone's medical history. We ask their social history about drinking, smoking, drug use. A lot of those things are the same for every single case. But then every single case is also very different from each other with all the other circumstances involved.
How about famous people? Is there a different protocol that you guys have to approach?
Oh, good one.
Not in our everyday reaction to how we approach the scene. There may be in terms of media inquiries and whatnot, but we approach every death investigation the same. The person that's indigent is just getting the same attention to detail in the investigation than would your Hollywood starlet that happens to die in Pinal County. Again, with the exception of the possible media attention there, but we're definitely approaching both deaths with the same amount of scrutiny, same amount of attention to detail there.
So there's never been a case where somebody tells you there's a restriction, don't look into this or don't ask this, but you can go this route.
No, we have jurisdiction over the body and the death. The police have jurisdiction over the scene in terms of if we're in someone's house, they may need to get a search warrant or something like that. But our concern is the body, and we do what we need to do to get answers for the families. So if there's a certain extended family member that has the reason not to do an autopsy, we don't just not do an autopsy because of that. And we also would find it strange. Why would they not want an autopsy?
Right.
So we want to make sure that we're getting the answers for the family the best way possible. And sometimes we have to do things the family may not want an autopsy, but we need to do one. Sometimes they may want an autopsy and it's not necessary, or they want toxicology testing where it's not necessary, and we have to balance how are we spending tax dollars, because we're a government organization. Right. What's the best way to spend the tax dollars to get these families the information that they need, to get the public the information that it needs about infectious diseases like COVID or fentanyl crisis or something like that. Our goal is to get the right answers, and we can't be restricted by certain concerns from people for whatever personal reasons they may have for that.
I know you got. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Andre. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I just want to throw in real quick. I'll piggyback on that just to say that we do take into consideration. There are some, for example, religious considerations. Certain folks that adhere to Jewish faith or Muslim faith are against autopsy procedures. And if we can, obviously, we'll try to take those considerations into place. But again, at the end of the day, if the autopsy is warranted, then it's something that we'll do. Again, not every case requires an autopsy, and this is my kind of weird analogy, but the way I explain it to people is, if you're doing a home improvement project, you may not always need a hammer. You always may not need a screwdriver, but you can still accomplish your home improvement project. The autopsy is the same way. We can determine cause of death sometimes without an autopsy, or sometimes we just need toxicology, but it's not always necessarily toxicology or an autopsy that we need, and together essentially to determine the cause and manner of death for every case.
What's the ratio for you guys when you go approach a family and then tell them something, then they get that surprised look like, what? What do you mean my son used to do, does cocaine or smoking marijuana? Has that happened to you guys? Is that often that you end up informing the family of something that they were not aware of?
Fairly regularly, I'd say. Absolutely. Susie, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'd say fairly regularly. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's also some that I think that they know, they just don't want to admit it. So they kind of just say, no, he didn't do this or he didn't do that. But then, we find out from other friends, yeah, he did, So there's, we've had the ones where they say that, oh, he always wore his seatbelt, but then his friends tell us he never wore his seatbelt when he went out with them. So, it's a fair balance, actually, of things that the family is surprised by versus things that we end up surprised by.
I've got a question. I know that Andre worked in the Las Vegas or Clark County medical examiner's office, but not during the mass shooting that was there.
Correct.
And I want to know, drive you guys nuts when you see people calling that a conspiracy or calling COVID a conspiracy? Do you just want to, I don't know, scream? I mean, does it drive you nuts?
Yes.
It does to a certain extent. I think that it drives me nuts to a certain extent, and it's somewhat entertaining to me just to try to get in someone's mind as far as their logic there.
Right.
Especially with COVID, it's one of those things where whether or not you personally know someone that died or has been infected or has been personally touched by it, it's a real thing. Real people are actually dying of this disease, and it's unfortunately kind of par for the course these days that everybody's an expert and there's a lot of conspiracies out there. So it doesn't only extend to that, but even our in custody deaths. If we're just taking us back, we have folks that die either in prison or in the local jail here. And it just seems that maybe an overdose or something of that nature, but there's increased scrutiny obviously because they were in custody. There's sometimes accusations to cover ups and things of that nature there, and a lot of it's just education, explain the process. But yeah, I mean it's not uncommon, unfortunately, and it's unsettling how frequently it's coming up, I would say, compared to previous years. But again, be it COVID, be it deaths in prison, it's not uncommon for folks to kind of question or even call conspiracy on whatever it may be that we're communicating to them as far as cause and manner of death.
I think a lot of things in the media also kind of gets things stirred up, whether it's social media or people just watching television shows, and they think that that's the way real life is all the time. And, that they think that you can determine the exact moment that someone died when you find them and they haven't been seen for 3 days. They're expecting us to give them this answer that's just really not possible because they saw it happen on TV. So, people do get a false idea of how things should be from either media misrepresentation or social media talking with each other about, well, when it happened to me, it was like this, but when it happened to you, it was like this. And unless you work in the industry, you kind of don't really see the intricacies of it. But we try to put out there into the public the accuracy of things and how it's not like it is on TV and everything's not like it is on CSI.
You're not going to tell me that you guys don't work in the dark with all kinds of flashy, cool, see-through screens and equipment, right? Don't ruin this for me.
Well,
oh, good.
That
okay.
we don't, but I do drive to my scenes in Camaros, though, so that's my vehicle of choice.
Okay.
We're not running around with guns and jumping over the hoods of cars, shooting at suspects and chasing them down. We don't have any interest in that whatsoever.
I'm a little disappointed.
Oh, damn it!
I get it.
Yeah.
I guess this call is over.
Yeah, right. Oh, I thought you guys were going to tell us about that. A couple weeks ago we had on our show, we talked about refugees, and one of our guests told us that, Holly was her name, told us that asylum has basically stopped. Like, you can't go to the border and request asylum anymore. have you seen, or do you know, I guess, I don't know if you guys would probably be more Maricopa, but do you know if there's been an uptick of, like, border crossing deaths because of the borders being closed in that way?
We don't see too many of the border crossing deaths in our jurisdiction just because I think how north we are from the border. I think that if you were to ask this question of someone who worked at the Pinal County office, you would get a much more detailed answer. I mean, occasionally we do get folks that are suspected to, for lack of a better term, but been mules that may have died in the desert. But yeah, we don't get too many up our way. Again, I think just mostly because of our geographical, position, so north of the border.
My husband had a question he wanted me to ask you. He wanted to know what's the weirdest thing you found in a body.
Inside of one?
That come to mind. Yeah.
I think Andre, as a paramedic, may have seen things or heard of things being inside of bodies, but usually by the time of an autopsy, I don't think there's many surprises most of the time.
Andre, what you had a couple you were about to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily a surprise, more so than just things that make you go, I would say.
Like, how many gerbils is this guy able to fit in here?
As an example.
So I mean, you've got your normal things. So I had a scene in which this was a gentleman that was on was pulled over for a routine traffic stop. The officer essentially gets out the car, starts walking towards the car, and as the officer approaches the vehicle takes off, high rate of speed. They go on a high-speed chase for maybe about 15 minutes or so, and then the car just slowly comes to a stop, and the decedent is dead inside the vehicle. But at autopsy, I think that there were, 15 and 17 or so baggies of cocaine that were found in the stomach. One, of course, was ruptured. So you put the story together there.
Where was it found?
This was in Texas, and this was in his stomach. Yeah.
No, I mean, where in his body? You said he had 17 bags of cocaine where?
In his stomach, so he had swallowed them.
In his stomach, so he'd swallowed them, yeah.
Right. Other than that, we found we've had some pretty bad car accidents where we found pieces of the vehicle inside of the individual, be it pieces of the dashboard, turn signal, things of that nature there.
Every so often we'll have a choking death where we'll find something in their throat that we didn't expect. Usually the circumstances that are told to us ahead of time that the person collapsed while they were eating. In that case, it's not a surprise when we find food in there. But sometimes we just find a person that had food in their throat and no one knew. And no one knew that they were choking. Maybe they died at home alone and they were collapsed onto the kitchen floor. And we find out during the autopsy that they've got food in their throat. That's not unusual or odd or anything like that, or quite interesting, but that's the type of thing we typically see.
How about prison deaths? I mean, is it more majority of contraband that prisoners die from? Is that a realistic thing there?
No.
I think most people are surprised. So really and truly, there are 5 classifications or manners of death, right? So you have natural, accident, suicide, homicide, and undetermined. The vast majority of prison deaths, and this is consistent with national statistics, are natural by far. You've got folks that are been in jail for prison, I should say, for 30, 40, 50 years, and they die of cancer, they die of heart disease, they die of just natural deaths. That's by far the most that we see. I think secondary to that is probably suicides, and then your overdoses. But again, by far, most prison deaths are natural deaths.
Oh wow.
I feel really bad right now because that question I asked about what was inside the bodies, actually that was Dave. I thought I was talking to my husband, but it was talking to Dave about it, and he wanted to know that. So I took his question. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, I was like, damn, me and Lewis were on the same page about wanting to ask that question.
Yeah, no. I'm sure he's interested in that, but yeah, no. Sorry about that, dude.
Great minds think alike, yeah.
Yeah, maybe,
yeah, exactly.
Or my brain doesn't work. one of the questions from one of the Twitter users, Betty, she asked, what is the worst part of the job and what is the best part of the job?
Good question.
I'll let you take the leeway on this one, Suzi.
Oh gosh. Well, I think the best part is getting answers to families that don't know what happened. We have, there are some cases where it could be a natural death, but it could be an accidental death, or it could be an accident, but it could be a suicide. And, us putting all the pieces together for them and giving them that answer and that closure. The other thing is I worked a lot at Maricopa with unidentified bodies and missing persons. So finding out identities of people that have been unidentified for years and giving their family that closure that they've been looking for this missing person for, it could be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. They're looking for these people, and to finally give them that answer. I enjoy that part of the job the most. The worst part, I'm sure anyone who does our job will tell you, is dealing with the child deaths. And the ones that are, there's the SIDS deaths. Those, they happen. They're unfortunate, but we can discern for the family sometimes, did they do anything wrong? Maybe they thought they gave their kid too much medication when they were sick, and we say, no, it wasn't that. It just was SIDS or something like that. But then there's the kids that you see in these scenarios where they were assaulted or harmed in some way, or they got into their parents' methamphetamine or something like that. We have to see those too. So I think that's any death investigator's worst part of the job is the children.
Has there ever been a case for you guys where maybe it's too emotional, where you guys have to walk away from or maybe pass on? Has there ever been a situation like that?
Not for me.
Yeah, I've never personally had one. I mean, we walk into situations, commonly where, it's just a horrible situation. You talk about these child deaths and whatnot. Again, be it a SIDS death or be it a case where, the child was unfortunately abused. Obviously it's emotionally draining. It really is. But at the end of the day, we're professionals. We're there to perform a job, perform an investigation, to get answers for the family. And I think that we're able to do so well. What's great is just I think that, kind of amongst our community of investigators, folks in our office, our families, I think most of us have that support network too. If we do have, a scene that's disturbing us or kind of bothering us, we can talk about it. We have that outlet to discuss our feelings here. But I've never had to walk away from a scene. And, you kind of get your job done and, kind of process the emotions and talk it out with folks afterwards there.
You know what I'm realizing, guys?
Add to that, Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the only other thing I can add to that is inevitably there's going to be someone that dies that may need to come through the medical examiner's office. And at that point, we would step away. We would not handle a death of one of our friends or family members or sometimes even friends of friends or extended family. We would not, like Andre would never make me come to work if one of my friends passed away and came to our office. So, those are the times that not only would I not want to, but even if I wanted to be involved in it, he wouldn't let me. So we do have that as well. That's always out there as a possibility. It's never personally happened with me, but it could someday, and I hope it's not anytime soon.
God, that's so tough. Emily, you know what I just realized, Emily, having these interviews is I'm not as tough as I thought I was, I love boxing. I love this. I can get in the ring, get punched in the face. I have no problem with that. But I realize I'm a big puss because our first interview with the refugees had me nearly bawling with tears. And then hearing you guys, that you guys face all this stuff, I'm realizing I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do what you guys do. So thanks for letting me know I'm just not that tough of a guy.
Yeah.
But
I definitely like.
It's going back to what you asked about the worst and the best part. So obviously our job has to do a lot with death. It's ultimately determining cause and manner of death. But in addition to providing families with answers, we can do a lot for life as well. So let's just say in that child death that we brought up before, we find out this kid died of a rare congenital disease. So now not only are we able to provide the cause and manner of death to the family, but we can say, hey, look, do you have any other kids? Are you planning on having other kids?
Oh,
If
yeah.
yes to either of those, you need to have these kids tested for this particular, disease. It can be treated if caught early enough, but, unfortunately for your child, it was, too far. But, if your other children have it, it can be treated, it can be managed. So there's always that we preserve life, and that's kind of the silver lining in all the deaths, I guess you can say here. We may know.
And one more thing to build on that, we report all of our deaths to the Donor Network of Arizona. So there are also additional options for improving life by people being able to donate their skin tissue or bone or heart valves or corneas to people after their death. We get to be a part of that.
Awesome.
I think the overall of your guys' job is that, like, okay, I could see you look at it as a professional, this job with death, but I think it takes an extra person to be able to speak to the families at one of their most horrible time of their life and not get choked up about it. That's what I'm realizing, that I probably could do the work with the death part, but informing the families and investigating and letting them know or trying to ask questions, I think that's where I would probably like step away and say, yeah, this isn't for me. I couldn't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. It's
what
rough. It's
do either of you guys have? What's that?
I was just following up. It's not something that comes natural to folks. I mean, conversation, yes, but talking to people when they're at their highest moment of grief, it's not something that comes natural to a lot of people. Most of the times it's just a matter of, monitoring your tone, just being patient. A lot of folks just, they just lost their son, brother, sister, brother, whatever it may be. They're just kind of upset at the world. And sometimes it's just a matter of just hearing them out and just letting them vent for a little while before you can actually kind of get into, the information that we need to obtain. So part investigator, part counselor sometimes, really and truly.
Yeah. How do you guys take care of your own mental health? I mean, Suzi mentioned yesterday that to do the job, you may already sort of have some kind of emotional detachment in general. Like, I guess, how did you word that, Suzi?
I don't remember exactly, but I mean, people that do our kind of work, we like what we do, and if you don't like it, you can't do it. You just can't. So it sounds weird to say we like it, but we do. But we have to have outside hobbies. I mean, but I can pretty much guarantee you, all of us, if we got called into work right now, we would be fine with going. We wouldn't mind it at all because we like doing it. And it's not like, an account that's going to work every day that doesn't want to be there, or a banker or a grocery store clerk that doesn't want to be there dealing with customers. We like dealing with customers, the families and things like that. So, there is a little bit of a detachment, but there's also a weird way that we enjoy taking part in this.
What is a case for both of you? This is a question for both of you. What's a case that sort of stuck with you? And I know not necessarily in your current jurisdiction. What's a case that really kind of stuck with you more so than others?
You want to answer that, Andre, first?
Yeah. Again, just staying away from the specific case details, but I had a case a few years ago in which a young child, unfortunately, 6 years old, drowned in a backyard pool, and it really, at the end of the day, was just a tragic accident. I mean, the family had done pretty much everything you're supposed to do. They had a fence, they had the security in place around the pool, but unfortunately, the child found a way around it, and ended up keeping contact with the family, and they actually started their own organization just to promote, pool safety and childhood safety. And I think that's just memorable for me in the fact that they just took this, tragic accident, the loss of their own child, excuse me, and to, find a way to essentially, help the community and, make sure that this doesn't happen to, any other families within the community here.
When I was working at the when I was working at the Maricopa office, we used to have people call all the time saying, I haven't seen my sister for 3 days. Do you have any bodies there? And I would have to review the unidentified people and see if they fit the descriptions. And I kind of got more interested in going through those cases. And there was one particular one of this young girl, this young blonde teenage girl. And I said, how can this girl be unidentified and no one is looking for her? You know what I mean? Like, it's a teenager. There's got to be somebody looking for her. And she died in 1999. And I kind of made it my mission that I was going to identify her. And I identified her in 2008. It took that long to go through all these different processes and putting it out to the public and trying to just research everything we could. And it took that long, but we eventually did identify her.
Oh, wow.
How come she was not identified? Like, how come nobody, you didn't find her the family right away?
Well, she was a minor. So one thing that is kind of a discrepancy in the system, I don't know if it still is as much, but it was back then, is minors' fingerprints aren't in the regular national databases with adult fingerprints. So she did have a shoplifting arrest in her past, and she was fingerprinted for it, but those fingerprints weren't in any systems. So when we ran the fingerprints of the decedent's body, it never hit on anything. And there is now, sort of, but there's no place like the fingerprint database for dental records. You kind of have to know who someone possibly is and then request their dental records from their dentist and then match them to the records from the body. But you can't just throw it into a computer and go, hey, search these dental records and see if you find anything that matches, because people's dental records don't go into any databases. But now, as a result of all this work toward the unidentified bodies and the missing persons and reuniting them with each other and their families, there is a national database now where you can put everything about an unidentified body into this database, and the same for the missing person. And it does have algorithms that tell us as investigators, hey, there's these 35 missing people that also match your body in terms of having brown hair and being a female and being between the age of 20 and 50. And, and then it'll say that, if there's dental records in there, it does have the algorithms to match that now, which we never had before. So that's very promising. But for this specific girl's case, I created the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office Unidentified Body website, and I put all the cases on there. I spent a ton of time making sure that I could, and I actually modeled it. I don't know if Andre knows this, but I modeled it on the Clark County Unidentified Body website. And I said, if they can do it, they've already, created the wheel. I do not have to do all that work. I just have to put it all in the system. I don't have to go through the legal hoops because I know it's legal. It's already being done. And it's for the better good. Not everybody wants to turn on their computer and see a picture of a dead body, but people that are looking for their family members are willing to go through seeing those kinds of pictures to find who they're looking for. So I put them all on a website. And it just so happened that her brother was looking for her, called our office, asked about it, and we said, hey, go check on the website and see if you find anything that looks consistent with her. And it was the first case he looked at. It was her. So, technology changes over time, and we can make a lot of improvements to how we do our job based on the availability of, now with all the computer technology and the web, we can put things out there for people around the whole country to see, as opposed to just in our own town and on our local news. Just because someone passed away here, it doesn't mean that their closest family members are here. That they could be missing out of Indiana or Colorado. And how would their family ever know that they were in Arizona if there wasn't this web technology now where we could put the information out there to the whole country?
Right. Wow. I actually have two questions for you guys. The first one is, with the COVID-19 now around, has put a lot of things on pause. Does it prolong you guys, your investigation to getting to it? Like, do you guys have to wait till that body is cleared of COVID-19 before you can get close to it and start doing your investigation?
I'll let Andre answer that one.
Yeah, so it hasn't changed a whole lot for us. So as Suzi mentioned earlier, so the determination of jurisdiction is based upon state statute for our office. So the vast majority of COVID cases that occur, at least in Pinal County, have occurred in hospitals. So if you have a decedent that's in a hospital, they're admitted to the ICU, they're diagnosed with COVID, and they have some other underlying health conditions that may be, contributing to their overall demise, it's not a case that we accept. It's a non-jurisdictional case is what we call it. And that's the vast majority of COVID cases that we've experienced so far. For those cases in which, an individual's displayed COVID symptoms, they've had the fever, they've had the respiratory distress, they've had the loss and sensation of taste and smell, but they were not tested before they died. Obviously, that's a public health concern, so that is a case that we do investigate. Depending upon the circumstances, what we'll do is one or two things. We will either travel to the scene, obtain the necessary nasal swabs that we need to test for COVID, and release the body directly to the funeral home. So, therefore, the body's not coming to our office. Typically, in these cases, we have some other medical history. We're just concerned about whether or not this person had COVID. Okay. And we'll just send those swabs off to the lab and wait for the results. Now, if we do have to bring a body into our exam suite to actually perform an exam, other than, PPE, personal protective equipment precaution, there's nothing that will prevent us from, there's no time period. We have to wait 36 hours before they do this exam or something of that nature. But you figure, our exam technicians, our doctors, they're exposed to all sorts of hazards, unfortunately, other than COVID. We have folks that have HIV or Hep C or, whatever it may be. And unfortunately, there's still circumstances where those individuals have to be autopsied. So we definitely make sure we take the precaution to save, I should say, to protect ourselves. But there is no no standard wait time or kind of between the death and the time that we do the exam that we're implementing here.
How about when you start your investigation? When do you determine that it's that, like, in the time frame? When do you determine this is a cold case, that we can't identify this person? Is there a time frame that you guys are given to make that determination, or no?
No, we we work it as much as we can, and once we've exhausted all the means to do that, then we will make sure that we save DNA specimens. We get dental odontology consultations to get the dental x-rays on file. We do full body x-rays to ensure that, if this person had a screw in their ankle from a past injury, we have it documented. We get all the information we can about the person, and then we would release them to be buried. Now, that could take 2 weeks. That could take 6 months. Most of ours have been in our cooler for years, because we're still waiting to, go through all the steps and make sure we've documented everything. But like we were saying before, we don't have a lot of those. Most of the time when we have unidentified people come in, we run their prints and we find out who they are pretty quick, or they might have an identification card with them, but they just don't look like that anymore, whether it's due to weight loss or an injury from a car accident, or the decomposition that can happen if somebody's outside in the summer for, 2 weeks. They might have an identification card with them, but we need to make sure that it's them. So, sometimes that could take just a couple days. But if it means that we have to keep a set of skeletal remains in our cooler for 3 years while we work to, try all the different things that we can to figure out who they are, then we'll do it.
Gotcha.
But we can eventually release them to be buried. Once we have everything documented, we would release them. They would get buried in a county indigent burial type of setting at a mortuary to handle that. And then if by some chance they do get identified later, the family has that option that they can either, just leave the person buried there and put a headstone there or whatever they would like to do, or they may decide that they want to bury them closer to where they live in another state, or they may decide that they would rather cremate the person. But they would still have that option because we would be able to return those remains to them and give that person their name back.
Andre, what's that?
No, go ahead, man.
Andre, do you find working in Pinal County sort of slow compared to Clark County? But I would assume in Vegas you have a lot more like tourist deaths and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that, you know, the experience from having worked in 3 different offices in 3 different states, you know, each jurisdiction is unique, right? It has its unique, you know, geographical environment and unique cultural environment that kind of reflects itself in the type of cases that you see, if that makes sense. So is, you know, Pinal County slower compared to, say, Clark County and Travis County? Absolutely. But there are also, you know, certain types of deaths in Pinal County that, you know, I just wouldn't have in Travis County or have in Clark County. So that experience to, you know, investigate these types of deaths and be exposed to something new is unique to Pinal County. You know, for example, we're a pretty rural community, so we have you know, some farming accidents that take place. I'm not going to find that in the city of Las Vegas. You know, we have unfortunately we have some skydiving accidents. Same thing. I'm not going to find that in Austin. So yes, the caseload is a lot slower. But again, just the type of cases that I see are diversified, and that to me just more than makes up for it.
Well, I just want to thank you guys both so much for joining us today and telling us your stories and really kind of just breaking down what you do. It's a different type of job and, you know, really incredible job. And I don't know, I'm a little overwhelmed. I want to go like on a ride along, but not really because I don't want to do that. Maybe I'll just chat with Suzi once a week.
Thank you for offering a peek into our world and the reality of it as compared to television.
Yeah, no, you know what, guys? Thank you. I mean, this was great. I have like literally maybe 20 more questions, but I know we don't have time here on the podcast, so we definitely got to get you guys back on to ask more things. You know, I mean, I find your guys' line of work so fascinating, and also at the same time, if it wasn't for you guys, a lot of this stuff wouldn't. I mean, we need people like you guys because I know I wouldn't be able to do it. Like I said, I just found out that I don't. I'm a certain type of puss. I wouldn't be able to get in there and do that type of work, man. So thank you guys.
And I'm the type of puss that doesn't. I'm the type of puss that doesn't want to get punched in the face. So there you go.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you very soon.
Sounds great.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye. Wow, Dave, that was really interesting.
That was awesome. That was really good, you know. And I'm a guy, honestly, you know, if you tuned in to last week's Friday show, Father's Day episode special, where Emily surprised me with my youngest son coming on. And if you listen to what my son said, I literally sit and watch these ID shows with my wife, which I hate, okay? I hate watching these shows, Emily, because they're so depressing. And I'm like, why do you like this stuff? And my wife's like, I'm so fascinated. If I had a choice, this is what I would do. She would do what Suzi and Andre do. And yeah, this was great. I really enjoyed this.
Good. I think we have our next guest in the queue, 608.
Coach Larry Lar.
Larry Bear.
What's going on?
What's going on, Larry? How you been, brother?
I'm living.
Larry?
I'm living, man. No complaints.
Well, a good thing
Larry
is that we got...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, Emily. Good thing is we had Suzi and Andre on, Larry, so you have no worries about finding out or identifying one of your livers if that ever happens. So that's good.
One of your livers. Larry is, you know, Dave and I met, of course, on boxing Twitter or in boxing, working in boxing. And on Twitter, there's a big group of people that all tweet about boxing, and that's how we met Larry. and Larry's sort of the timeline's, punching bag, but we love him. He's a great guy. Larry, what are you up to? How's your breakfast?
Skip breakfast today. Yesterday was too much on the self-esteem, but I'm feeling good. I had lunch. I'm going to start trying that, I think. See how that goes.
How many drinks have you had today?
Just one.
Oh.
But I'm just getting out to my garden, so once the gardening starts, that's, it's anybody's guess.
Oh, wow. What are you growing?
Okay.
Oh, God. You don't have time for that. Everything. Anything you can imagine for the most part.
Are you preparing for the apocalypse? Is that what's going on, Larry?
I'm prepared, but I'm not preparing. How's that?
I was preparing when that first wave of COVID came through. Everybody was going for eggs, milk, and water. I wasn't. I was going for beer, Larry. That's what I was doing. I was being smart. I was like, if I'm going to go buzzing, and I'm going to go feeling good.
It's funny. A lot of people did freak out, and I don't usually freak out myself. And I stayed calm. I never really panicked, but I did buy more booze, and I go, in case I'm wrong,
Larry, on a scale of 1 to one of Suzi and Andre's cases, how hungover are you today?
Today wasn't too bad. Yesterday was really bad. I'm helping somebody move a bunch of stuff out of their house. It's about 95 degrees and 100% humidity.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was like 10 a.m. And I was like, you know what? I deserve this.
You know what, Dave? I think we have a special guest on the line.
Special guest is on the line. Go ahead, special guest.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, who is this?
This is Larry's liver.
Oh, wow.
Larry's liver.
Great.
Oh, I thought you were busy. Gosh, you're one of the busiest people or organs I know.
How much of a pounding does Larry do to you, liver?
Well, I mean, I'm jet black. I'm wrinkled and shriveled, and I'm the size of a beach ball. So, I don't know, you figure it out.
Jesus Christ, Larry.
But other than that, things are fine.
What's that?
Other than that, things are fine.
Would you? I don't know. I don't know if Larry's liver would agree with that.
Yeah, right. Larry's liver. How does his breakfast affect you on a daily basis? Because we've seen pictures. He posts pictures and tells everyone to make fun of his breakfast, but I feel like you probably don't think they're that funny.
Well, so imagine detoxing all that alcohol all night, and just as this fat fuck starts to sober up, I basically get to run backwards through a cornfield naked.
Wow.
And his breakfast hits me.
Is there any jealousy there, Larry's liver, with the breakfast? Because it seems like, the breakfast, talk about my breakfast trend really has taken off. Is there any type of jealousy there?
No, dude, I'm a sentient liver with a Twitter account. Come on. What do I care about?
There you go.
Larry, do you have any questions for your liver?
How about sympathy, Larry?
Yeah. Are we cool, man?
Are you fucking serious?
Larry's liver, I would have answered, of course we're not, Dick.
Larry's liver,
Yeah,
do you have any questions for Larry? Maybe like what his plans are this week. What are we planning for this week? And what can Larry's liver expect?
Pain. Most likely.
What? Do you have any questions for Larry's liver?
No. It's the less I know about what he's doing, probably the better.
Are there any cherished moments with Larry there, Larry's liver?
Well, I mean, there is this weird thing that he likes girls to do. He calls it getting centroned, where the girl pretends she's Margarito and lands an uppercut right into me.
Oh, wow.
Because that's, that's how my boy likes to finish, which is pretty fucked up. So now I'm all bruised too. I mean, it's
Larry,
horrible.
come on, Larry. Come on, Larry. That's a little extreme there. Hey, Larry's liver. Let me ask you. How about the rest of the organs in there? Do you have any conversations with the rest? Are they his other organs? Are they happy with Larry, or are they in the same state of how you feel?
Well, the only other one that can talk is Larry's prostate, and he and I are not on speaking terms at this time. There was, it's just some stuff that you don't want to know. There was very disturbing. The rest of Larry's organs are just permanently drunk, so they don't really talk.
I hate speaking to drunk.
To be fair, though, 0 to 15 was a pretty easy ride for you.
Yeah, that is true. And then you discovered that girls will still play with a fat guy's dangle, and the booze is super fun. So,
Larry,
and that's horrible ever since.
Do you have anything you want to say to your liver?
Yeah, hang in there, man.
Thanks, bud.
All right.
There you go, Larry's liver.
Thank you, Larry and Larry's liver, for calling in. It was good to hear from both of you. I'm glad you're still hanging in with us, Larry's liver.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
You guys have a good day. Try to recover, because Larry's already working on it.
I'm at the garden.
Bye, guys.
That was great. Oh, wow.
That was pretty
so
good.
Informative. So informative.
We have this great first segment that's like really actually informative, and we have this good discussion, and then we talk to Larry and Larry's liver. There's just something for everyone on Emily Talks.
Exactly. Next time, hopefully, we can get his prostate to come on the show and tell us what Larry's been inserting or been throwing out.
Oh.
That would be great.
Yeah. Final thoughts for this week, Dave? What do you think?
Final thoughts. Well, I definitely got a lot of questions answered by Suzi and Andre. Thank you again for having them come on, Emily. I thought that was a great segment. And, they did mention something about that they, customer service, right? But I would have to say half of their customers don't talk to them, in terms of them working with. Right. So when they were saying that, I was like, you know what? I hate customer service. Maybe I need to go in that type of field, because I definitely hate speaking to people in my line of work. I'm easily annoyed. I need to work on that. So if I don't work on it soon, Emily, you're going to see me over there with Andre and Suzi.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think you're cut out for it, Dave. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. My wife actually, she'll throw her fist up in the air and I flinch. So I know I'm not cut out for that kind of work.
Yeah, maybe she should do it though. That wouldn't be bad. Final thoughts from here in Arizona. There's we're having a very, very tough time with COVID. It's almost like I'm trying not to be like too doom and gloom about it, but I really feel like it's kind of growing exponentially at this point. Like every day the totals of new infections are bad. Most of them are in, people aged 20 to 44 who are less likely to die from it. But it's still like scary. Like I'm not going out. Everybody's wearing masks finally, even though there's people complaining about it. So all I just want to say is how much I love and appreciate the people in my life, and I really hope that everyone here in Arizona and across the country are staying safe and wearing their masks and staying inside, staying away from the virus. I'm very worried about my older relatives and stuff. And of course,
it's really
my baby.
It's definitely spiked over here in California. I think we're in the leading race right now in terms of cases in California. Actually found out on Thursday, a friend of mine, a young kid that's 24 years old, that works at one of my lots, contracted it, and his dad ended up getting it. And so my prayers are with him and his family right now. I haven't had a chance to speak to him. I did text him, but I'm figuring he's pretty busy because he is in quarantine and his dad is in the hospital. So my prayers are out there. I mean, this is a real thing, folks. It's a real thing. I mean, boxing, look at the fights that have been canceled and being rescheduled after testing. If you don't think this is not real, then these fights wouldn't be getting canceled. Unless you're Baby Miller, who'll probably be welcoming to put COVID-19.
Baby, then
yeah.
you should have probably gotten COVID instead of what actually ended up happening.
Yeah,
Baby
he doesn't
Miller
mind putting any. Yeah,
again,
he doesn't mind putting everything in his body.
Yeah,
he's got a CVS in his body.
I saw an interview with him, and he's like, well, I just didn't do my due diligence. It's like, after the first time, like, how could you not do your due diligence? Like, I mean, he lost such a huge opportunity to fight against Anthony Joshua, and then this. It's like really embarrassing.
It's embarrassing not just for himself and his team, but it's embarrassing for boxing itself because promoters, commissioners, guys, giving a guy on a suspension that failed not just once, okay? These are 5 tests that this guy's failed, okay, that we have in record now. But, I mean,
really?
Shame on you. Yes, this is shame on you. You guys should have known better. We've been, here on Leaving the Ring, we've been talking about PEDs way before anybody else was talking about it, before it became a trend where now you see other podcasters are doing it. So it's shame on the organization, the promoters, the commissioners, the ABC sanctions. This is a clear way of saying you guys are idiots. Not just Baby Miller. Baby Miller is exactly what a cheater's going to do. Hey, okay, you caught me once and you slapped me on the wrist. I'm going to try it again and see. Hopefully I can get around it this other time around. And then if I do get caught, you probably slap me again on the wrist. Some folks are calling for a ban. I would like a ban. I just don't believe that's going to happen, Emily. You know what's going to happen? He's probably going to be out for another 6 months to a year. He's going to come back with another long, drawn-out, sad story statement on his Instagram. And the boxing officials, the boxing guys that make the wheel turn are going to forgive him and say, let's give the guy another chance. Yeah,
he's an entertaining guy, but I don't know, man. There's just, right now there's so few opportunities to fight. Like, if people are messing up, it's just disappointing because there's so many guys sitting there at home waiting to get called up to fight. I mean, it's really kind of tough. And I am kind of happy that, we're seeing some closed dark shows or whatever. I'm happy to see people are fighting, but it's not the same. You think about, you can't see your friends and fans and family before the fight. Like, once you go into the bubble, you can't, interact with anybody. It's just a lot of crazy changes, and I'm trying to get used to living in this new reality, and I'm struggling with it. I want it to go back the way it was, and I don't think it's ever going to.
No, I think it's going to be a long, long time before we get back to the norm, unless everybody starts doing what they're told. And that's I think that's the problem right now in our country is that you got all these people that are saying, I don't wear panties. I'm not wearing a mask because I don't wear panties, and it's for a reason. I want them both to breathe. I'm like,
oh, that lady, Christ. That was weird. Okay.
That was awesome. It was weird, but at the same time, I was awesome because I was like, here we used to have, like, in Living Color, Mad TV, where they would come up with this outrageous skit of what people would think and probably say if they weren't filtered. And guess what? We're finally living in bizarre world. We're finally there, Emily, we are finally there where I was literally told by a friend of mine, I don't want to say he's a friend of mine, but a guy, an acquaintance, that this is the way they control us, bro. Duh, Dave, this is the way they control us by making us wear a mask. And I'm like, fuck, hey, really? This is what you think?
Yeah, it's a weird time right now. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are like about conspiracy theorists, like the QAnon Anonymous podcast. That one of my favorites that talks about this phenomenon. Talks about they're on the side of like us, like we're like this is stupid, but they actually dig into how this gets out there, and it's really on the social media platforms that it's radicalizing people, and that it's doing it quickly. They were talking about this lady that was I think she was like a new age type of person, and she went from like, I discovered QAnon to doing something crazy. I don't remember what it was in like doing something illegal and crazy in like 5 days. Like it's people are home right now. They're scared and they're just looking for reasons, to feel some kind of control. And I think that's where this comes from.
I think social media itself has released the beast that's within everyone. It's made people be more radical. What happens to a lot of folks, and I see this a lot. If you follow me on Facebook, I'll put get off your freaking phones, people. Stop reading into these conspiracies and really find the time that you probably are missing with your family. Because I know that once you consume yourself with all this stuff that's being just thrown out, and it's like one after another, eventually, after sitting in front of your phone or your computer for 4 to 5, 6 hours, Emily, you're going to start believing what you're reading and what these other. I mean, you become, and I find this very true that there's a lot of people that are sick and they're looking for like-minded folks, and that's how they're falling into this because it's justifying what they've always felt in their heart, and it's sad. It's kind of terrible, And it's mostly, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here. Can somebody get me these statistics? But for me, it's mostly very religious folks that are falling into this trap of conspiracies, which is kind of weird and scary.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think I think people are looking for answers. Why is this happening? Why? Whose fault is it? And that's not, you're gonna find. You got to kind of accept where we're at, I think. But then they would say, Emily, you're a sheep.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, definitely. But it also goes back to religion. I mean, if you're a religious person and you're asking these questions, what happened to God has a plan? And if the plan is that the COVID-19 is making people kind of readjust their lives and you have to wear a mask for the time being, then follow the plan. Why is everything got to be man-made or I don't know. I'm not a follower of religion. If people don't know that, if you know me personally, I'm not a religious person, but I believe in God. Okay, I believe in the Word, and I believe in what He says. I don't believe that you got to go to church and have this beautiful cathedral where you could sit and pray. I believe that if you have a relationship with your Maker, you can do it anywhere. Why do you need this beautiful cathedral to go and go and pray? And then why are you only picking and choosing what He's saying, and then using other stuff to kind of fit your agenda of conspiracy? It's really weird. I think it's a very touchy subject, and I know I'm going to offend a lot of folks, but it is what it is.
I think maybe the ones that we see through this lens, like the people, religious people, spiritual people that don't believe the conspiracy and stuff are probably the majority of them, but we kind of see the crossover. But I don't know. I think religion is good for some people. I'm kind of.
I wonder if
I've struggled with it the last few years myself.
I wonder if Larry's liver's wearing a mask. I mean, it ain't gonna help him much.
So.
Whatever Larry's consuming, but I'm hoping that he wears something.
All right, Dave. Well, thank you, Suzi and Andre, for coming on the show. So interesting, and thank you, Larry and Larry's liver, and thank you, Dave.
Yeah, what do we got
scheduled
for next
week?
Yeah, what do we have?
We have
for
next week J.R. Cardenas and Alexis Zazueta. J.R. is a TV personality, and Alexis is a pro boxer, and he also owns an HVAC company. And since we're close to the 4th of July, we're going to be talking about the American dream. They're both immigrants, and we're going to talk about their experiences and especially the Alexis sort of the DACA, fluctuation of DACA. Like, you never know if it's ever going to be final. And he's here owning a business and having a wife and having children, and it's a stressful thing. So we're going to talk about the American dream with those guys next week.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, there you go.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you, Dave, and thank you everybody who's listening. Feel free to go back and listen to our previous shows at emilytalks.com. And we are on the Leave It in the Ring radio network. Thank you.